right, joining me again. Happy to have this guy back, Mr. Kent Boucher. Kent, how are we doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing good, Pierce. And I just have to say, I brought a little Chicago Bears cheer to the conversation here. I got my Bears cap on. I had to blow the dust off of it. I haven't been able to wear it for a while with any kind of measure of pride. But
I was about to ask, like, hey, can you just tilt your camera down just a little bit so I don't have to look at that thing?
No, it was too good of an opportunity. But I understand that it is definitely, I guess this is a form of public speaking right now, and it's a faux pas to like make your audience your enemy right off the get-go. So I wanted to say I love the state of Wisconsin. It's one of the most beautiful states in our country. Driftless Wisconsin is like a real happy place for me. And you guys have great fishing, honestly, some of my favorite fishing memories have come from Wisconsin, and some of my earliest memories in the outdoors have come from Wisconsin, as I have family up there. And really where I kind of learned about hunting, what hunting was, got my first taste of it was in Wisconsin. And we can get into it, but I had a successful muzzleloader hunt up in Wisconsin this year that I got invited on. And so, yeah, I'm wearing a Bears hat. I grew up in Illinois, grew up a Bears fan, which most of the time I would tell you I wish I was, an Eagles fan, or I wish I was a Chiefs fan, or something else. But I'm a true Bears fan. I can't
Don't say a Chiefs fan. That's honestly that's even worse. Like, yeah.
Well, here in Iowa, it's so interesting. Like you see such a mixture of different fans. Like there's a lot of Packer fans, a lot of Viking fans. I would say probably the most that you come across are Chief fans, but that's probably also a fair bit of fair weather.
Mm-hmm.
That just over the last few years, it'll be interesting as the next 5 to 10 years of the NFL takes shape, and there's a lot of new young quarterbacks in the NFL that'll, some of them I'm sure will rise to prominence over the next 5 to 10 years. And if any of those are from states bordering Iowa, I'm sure that will kind of, the tide will change a little bit to follow them. But
the Caitlin Clark effect will
yes, the Caitlin Clark effect will take hold. But no, it's a fun year to be a Bear fan. And honestly, it's not fun right now to be a Packer fan, but I bet it was a lot of fun for you guys, even in some of those close games, and you definitely got the Bears once this year. And we were talking before we started recording, not that this is a football podcast, but it is very recent. Over the last 2 years, I think every Bears Packer game has basically come down to like the last play,
Mm-hmm.
and I think every single one of them has been a one-score game. So it's exciting times. I'm glad the rivalry actually means something again.
Right.
It's been a long time where it's basically been a preseason game for the Packers, and it's been a fun year to be a football fan, but also a great year of hunting, and I look forward to my next time that I'm up at the neighbors to the northeast of me.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Well, speaking of visiting the state, we finally got a chance to connect in person out at the Duran farm for
That's
the
right.
Man, how was that trip for you?
Oh, that was a ton of fun. It was very cold. I remember sitting there like, man, do I wish I was out there hunting does today, or am I really glad that I don't have to be out there?
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of settled on, I think I'm glad that I'm not going out. It was that cold. I think, let's see. So you were there Friday night, right? Or no, Saturday night.
Saturday night, yeah.
And when we woke up Sunday night at the house, it was -13.
Yep.
And it was frigid. And so it was a cold experience, but man, what a ton of fun. I had a great time chatting with you for a long time, and the house just got absolutely packed that night. I remember it got so packed that I went outside and stood by the fire, so it's like -10, stood by the fire for like an hour. I think I got like a little bit of frostbite on my nose because I had this like white patch on my nose the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
And it was that packed in the house. So like, I got to get some space and some air. And, but no, it was a great time. You know, I was impressed by like just how well you Wisconsinites are, uh, just accustomed to that, you know, like it gets dang cold down here in Iowa too. I'm not, you know, it's not like I'm coming from the Bahamas. Um, and we probably even get some of the worst, wind chills
Oh, the wind for sure.
in the country, you know, other than maybe like North Dakota, just because we have so much open country here. But as far as just like watching how people from Wisconsin build a fire, split wood, you know, the kind of clothes they wear, the way they operate, you guys are just good at being cold.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of fun to watch that. And I kept thinking of that line from Coulter Wall song that it's like, the North folk are dandy, they don't mind the cold. And I just kept thinking of that, you know, that you guys are good at being cold. And I don't know, that's kind of neat to see those different skills that are regional, I guess.
Yeah, right. Well, it's just you got to get busy or you're gonna get cold, right? So you got to be good at something.
That's right.
But it's the hobby of making a fire. Like I was thinking about that the other night because I was making a fire in our fireplace, and I was just like, I just killed 15 minutes doing that and zoned out the whole time and had a great time. And I don't know what I'm going to do next, but this was awesome.
Yeah. Isn't it crazy how like we're just wired that way to where having a task at hand is just good for us. You know, I think it's good for your mental health, honestly.
Oh yeah.
Whereas
even if it's something short like that, like it's 10, 15 minutes, but you're using your hands and you have to think just a little bit critically, like, and doing doing that's not, you know, just sitting there scrolling, going to town like that.
Scrolling or typing, you know, there's something so I used to be a white collar guy because I was a teacher, science teacher for first part of my career for 8 years. And I would come home physically untapped, but mentally exhausted, you know, like, you know, I just walked around the classroom or, you know, stood in one place, sat at my desk, but I would come home just feeling so drained. It's like, it's a different kind of tired. It's a sickly tired. Yeah. Whereas, you know, now, you know, I'm a farmer. And so when I come home and a farmer of the old way, not the just, you know, sitting in a cab all day. Although I do more of that now since, my boss passed away this summer, but, I still do a ton of the, you know, physical side of farming and it's, I don't know, I feel more tired, of course, physically, but I feel better overall, coming home from that. And there's just something about it where being physically engaged is good for us. And, I think any way you can incorporate that. And I think probably when you're building that fire, you're just connecting, you know, like you're using other skills and you're living in the moment. I don't know, you know, when you're synthesizing something on a computer, it's more like deep thinking. It's more, you know, planning way ahead or, you know, being a part of this nebulous network of groupthink or, you know, brainstorming or whatever. But when you're building a fire, you're just like, stick goes here, you know, kindling here, tinder here, spark here, you know. That's a very, very, I don't know, primal. And
primal is the word that keeps coming to my mind. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, we hear how many different studies and podcasts and stuff like that about how like people aren't walking enough, people aren't doing enough, they're not moving their bodies enough. That's why our spines are weirdly shaped now, and our heads are slowly like drooping forward. Like we're not doing what we were designed to do, and our technology is accelerating significantly faster than our bodies are evolving. So it's like, what do we do in the meantime right now, right? It's like, I don't know. There's certain things where it is like you get that satisfaction of, even if it's doing something with your hands, whether it's making a fire or doing farm work or working outside in the shop or something like that, or butchering a deer. I literally just got done cutting up a doe. Like
awesome.
Right before we hopped on, I finally got my negative CWD result back from December 30th. So had that one on ice and was just waiting that one out. But finally got to cut that one up. It's just, there's stuff like that just like, I don't know what it is. There's got to be something. I'm sitting here thinking maybe I don't know what I sound like right now, but like, I don't know. You do stuff with your hands, and there's got to be something with like having slightly sore arms, like hands, fingers. You know how you get not like that arthritic feeling, but just like your joints are just a little sore.
I used them today. That kind of feeling.
Exactly. Yeah, but it wires straight to your brain and just feels fantastic.
Yeah, the best way I've heard that talked is actually the best way I've heard it mentioned before, I guess, is by a friend of yours, a guy who's on this network, Dan Johnson. I once heard him years ago. I think he was talking about shed hunting, and he said he loves the feeling of after a day of shed hunting, feeling bushed when he goes to bed, just from all the hiking and, you're pushing through tall grass or tripping over stumps or, like basically just physically, exerting yourself for a full day. And he's like, I just love that feeling when I go to bed at night, feeling bushed. And I've thought about that ever since he said, and I heard him say that, man, probably 7-8 years ago on Wired to Hunt, I think. And I think he's onto something there. And I think you're kind of describing that when you feel that those exhaustion points in your body, you just know that was good for you and that you will be stronger tomorrow, and I don't know, it's probably the same feeling you get when you stack a bunch of firewood and you look at that firewood and you're like, yeah, I'm taken care of for the winter. Or you package all that meat like you were doing, and you're stacking it up in the freezer. You're like, look at me, I'm preparing for, the year. I got my protein for the year. And there's, all those positive mental places we go, especially when you think of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, those are addressing a lot of our needs that we need to feel like a whole person, a cared for person, somebody who's suited to survive. Those exertions connect with those positive thoughts. This is me. I'm not a counselor or a psychologist. It's just me spitballing here. Yeah. But I think that there really is something to it.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny you bring up Dan, because as we're on this topic, he and I we're kicking this one around a little bit. I think back over the fall or something. I don't remember what it was, but he was in a good mood that day, and he he went off on a tangent on me about how he was gonna. It was kind of chasing that feeling, that satisfaction of like capturing that feeling of filling the freezer. Like after you harvested a deer, you are at home, you open the freezer door after you've butchered everything, you see it all there.
Yeah.
His son standing next to you, his wife is, in the other room or whatever. And then that evening, and he was like, basically, this is the plot of maybe what will be my deer hunting romance novel, Venison and Lovemaking.
All the needs are met.
Yeah, exactly. We love Dan. We definitely love Dan.
Yeah,
dude, I was thinking about it, man. So you have your hands in. I mean, I was thinking about it before we started recording. Like you are unbelievably busy. I mean, between I know you've got multiple kids. You've got you're the production manager over at Hoksey Native Seeds. You host the First Gen Hunter podcast, and also you're the co-host of the Prairie Farm podcast. Like, I don't know how you keep track of all that stuff on a given day and also do all your work. But I was thinking about it. Do you feel like a first gen hunter still? Like, do you feel like a newer hunter, or do you feel like
you're tapping into my my inner turmoil here over the last 4 months or so? I don't like it. So let's go on to the next time. No, I'm just kidding. No, you're really hitting on something. I still definitely am the host of First Gen Hunter, but I used to be a weekly podcast. I used to be a twice weekly podcast publisher on that feed, and I definitely am not there right now. I think my last one was maybe 3 weeks ago, and so I'm trying to decide, what does this look like going forward, and and just to be honest, and you can be as honest with me as you feel comfortable here. But when you're a niche topic podcast host, um, there's only so many times you can talk about late season pheasant hunting tactics or how to hunt the rut
Mm-hmm.
or and kind of you start to lose your zip on it. And when that happens, the act of all of it kind of gets reduced to, well, this is something I said I would do, or this is something I promised my financial partners I would do. And that's a dangerous place to get to when it's around something that you believe you are wired to do,
Mm-hmm.
and so I've been wrestling with that this year. I definitely have needed a break. This was a very challenging year, extremely challenging. I do have 4 kids. I love them. They're other than my wife, they're the most important thing to me in my life. And they're at a really fun age right now. Their age is 19 months, so a year and a half. I know people hate it when parents talk in months, but it really does matter. We're just talking about when do we start the youngest one potty training this morning. And it'll be probably at about 20 months, just so you know. But so I got a 1.5-year-old all the way up to 8-year-old. And that's just like, it's just such a fun age. And I remember, Pierce, so it would have been March of 2025. I was at Pheasant Fest, and I love going to Pheasant Fest. I love seeing, that's where I met Doug and became great friends with Doug and Lindsay, of course. And, got to meet Cal, and always enjoy having a conversation with him when I see him there. And Cal from Meat Eater, Ryan Callahan. Trying to think what other friends. Travis Frank from the Flush. Bob St. Pierre. I always get to talk with him a little bit while I'm up there, and so it's just so much fun, right? And it's all around hunting and conservation. And I remember I went to a concert that was a part of Pheasant, the goings on of Pheasant Fest last year. I was having a great time there. Doug was playing, but he only played for like a couple songs, and that was the main reason I was there. And I remember sitting there thinking, normally I'd be sitting here daydreaming about, man, when am I going to go on my next elk hunt? When am I going to go what buck am I excited about shooting next year or whatever, right? What hunts do I still want to do with my bird dogs before they're too old? Those kinds of things danced around in my head. And I don't think that that's abnormal, but I don't think that's always healthy either, because they're usually pretty self-focused thoughts. And I remember sitting there thinking, I'm not thinking about hunting right now. I'm thinking about my kids, my family, my wife. Like, I'm down here in Kansas City and they're back home. And I wonder what they're doing right now. I wonder, I bet you it's bedtime, and my wife is, brushing my daughter's hair after she just took her, one of her, her Tuesday night, or I guess at that point would have been Thursday, her Thursday night bath, because that's usually the routine, right? Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday for the little kids. And you just start thinking about all that stuff, right? And what I realized was something had changed inside of me, where I was at a greater point of contentment, and I must not have been proving something to somebody, whoever that was, myself, my dad, my brothers, my friends, my audience on social media. I just wanted my family,
Mm-hmm.
and so this year was interesting. I took on a mountain of responsibility this year. My boss at that time was dying of cancer, and he had been dying of cancer for years, basically since I started working at Hoksey. And it had gotten very bad. In fact, shortly after we got back it was within a week of us returning from Pheasant Fest, he had his big, quarterly checkup, and he was told, yeah, you got 6 months at most to live. And so just like in, the buildup of responsibility that comes when somebody's feeling that sick, was already starting to become apparent to me. Right. And we were the two guys who farmed, 500 acres of production together, and 38 different species, and 39 if you count soybeans. But making decisions and doing work on all that ground together, more of it started getting shifted onto my plate because he was feeling so sick. And then come July, he passed away. And so I think part of that was working on me too. It's like, what's really important to you, Kent? And whether I was asking myself that question or not, somewhere in the files of my brain, those documents were being written and examined, and I was starting to come to terms with it, I think. And so this whole year has been just that adjustment into this new phase of my life. And one of the things I realized, Pierce, is hunting does something for most people that I think they need because they aren't getting it anywhere else. And what it does is it gives them an opportunity to do something that matters, to do something that when they make the call, when they get to make the call, there's real repercussions for making that call. A lot of people are stuck in jobs where they are a cog in the machine, and they wonder if anyone even notices what they're doing every day. And they wonder if what they're doing, even if it is noticed, if it actually is needed or if it matters. And that's a sad reality, because let's go back to you talking about that, building that fire. Now imagine your house probably has, natural gas or propane heat as well. But let's go back, or let's say you didn't. Let's say you were totally dependent on you getting that fire. I got one of my best friends, Luke Fritch. He heats his house with a wood burner, and in the winter, he basically can't go anywhere more than 36 hours. He can't be away from home for more than 36 hours because he's got to fill that wood burner, right? And he's cutting wood all year long, and he's even cutting wood in the wintertime to make sure his supply is good to heat his house. And he doesn't ever have to wonder if while he's cutting that wood, if it matters, because if he doesn't, his daughters will freeze, and there's real stakes there in what he's doing. And hunting brings that back into our life. It says, hey, if you're really serious about not spending a lot of money on beef at the grocery store that you probably don't even really know where it came from or how it was raised or what it was fed or whatever. If you're going to say that matters to you, then either you're going to have to grow that cow yourself. And well, most people don't have the land or the infrastructure to do that, or you're going to have to go get it yourself through hunting. And so hunting allows you to do that. And that provides so much importance to what you're doing. And it puts you in the driver's seat, because there again, if you're stuck as just a cog in the machine, and I'm not trying to knock on anybody's job if that's what they're in. I lived in that role for 8 years. Mm-hmm. If you're stuck in that, I know not everybody can escape that either. I feel very blessed that I've been able to do that, but you want to feel tested. Like, I don't want to just be stuck here being told what to do by some, boss over me that I think I make better decisions than half the time anyways. But because he's got the role that he has and I have the role I have, then I'm stuck here doing what he tells me to do or whatever. We want ourselves to be tested. If I go and walk out at this time of the day in these conditions and I choose to get up to that glassing point and look down on that valley, am I going to see something? If I see it, am I going to be able to put myself into position to do something about it? And if I'm able to put myself into position to do something about it, am I able to see it through and get that animal on the ground and bring it home to my family? And then if I bring it home to my family, am I actually able to turn it into food? And you start stacking up all of these tests for yourself to test what you're made of, to demonstrate what kind of skill you have. And that is so fulfilling and provides people with such deep confidence in themselves. And my coworker Nicholas once said he really appreciated how, because he's not a hunter, right? But we're always rubbing shoulders with hunters because we sell habitat mixes and stuff like that to hunters all the time. Hunters are one of our primary customers. And he said, I really appreciate how confident hunters are. Just like not just talking about hunting, but just like in life. They're decisive. They feel good about making decisions. And I think it really ties to that because you're testing yourself regularly. And I can't really think of why else we would be motivated to go sit in a tree stand in the rain or to go sit under a tree in a thunderstorm waiting for a turkey or, hike for 13 miles at elevation trying to find elk or, you know what I mean? Like there's got to be something better than it's just fun, because let me tell you, elk hunting is not fun. It is a butt kicking workout the entire time. Anyone who tells you that elk, you're going to go on an elk hunt, change the word hunt to exercise. You're going to go on an elk exercise is what you're going to go do.
An elk
or
workout,
a workout or a workout. You're going to go on an elk workout. But it is fun. It's you ever hear Ranella talk about like type 2 fun or whatever, where you don't think it's fun until after it happened. Yep. Like you come back and it's some of the most enriching experience you've had in your life and you can't wait to do it again. But it's not like, ooh, I'm eating cotton candy and going on the roller coaster type of fun. It's there's something deeper going on there. And I think it's scratching that itch, but there are other ways to scratch that itch. Getting launched into the position that I did, where now, Carol's not here my boss, his name was Carol. Mm-hmm. Carol's not here to make these decisions for you anymore, Kent. He's not here to bail you out if you screw up. He's not, this is on you. And the buck stops with you, just like it does when you're, bow hunting or whatever, right? It makes that feeling happen to me every single day now. And so that's changed me as a person, right? I'm still wired to hunt. I'm still, I hunted as hard as I could this year. Even though I barely could hunt in October because I was so busy with harvest season and I didn't really get out for the rut until mid-November. Still harvested 3 bucks and so I'm still getting after. I'm not trying to say that, but I guess it's a really long-winded way to just kind of walk you through where my thoughts have been over the last 6 months, maybe even longer, maybe closer to a year, really, honestly. Mm-hmm. Kind of kicked off with that night that I was at that concert in March. And so to say, do I feel like a first-gen hunter? Not really. And it's not really because of anything I've done, really, other than I just go hunting every year and try to do it better than I did the year before. but largely because through the podcast, doing the First Gen Hunter podcast is the best thing I've ever done professionally. No question about it.
Mm-hmm.
Rubbing shoulders like guys like yourself who have way more experience than me, and
Not by much.
picking their brains on how do they approach this scenario. What do I need to know to go on an elk hunt? What do I, what kind of gear is the best for this situation? How do I glass? How do I spot and stock? How do I hang a stand in the right spot? How do I do a hang and hunt? How do I track? How do I, all those things, getting to ask experts, in the field for over 5 years now, how they do it, and hearing their stories, and becoming great friends with so many of them, hunting with a lot of them, has changed me and given me hunting experience of, probably someone who's done it for 30 years, and just because I've been able to borrow so much knowledge from all these folks, or getting nudged, like my friend Alex Gruen, who's with East West Hunts. He's gotten me to hunt out west 3 times now, just through his nudging of that. And, for most people, a Western hunt always feels like it's 2 years away. Always. Yeah, a couple years, I'm going to do that. Yeah. I'll start buying points. Yeah. I'm going to get the gear. I'm going to get in shape. 2 years, I'm going to be ready. Some things are going to settle down here. Financially, this is going to happen. You need those people that are going to get you out the door and get you signed up and get you going. And so I plan to keep First Gen Hunter going. I've definitely, though, like you said, I'm a busy guy and something had to give, and so I've peeled back on that. And I love doing the Prairie Farm Podcast still. That one's so fun because I get to talk about all the things that I love, hunting and conservation, farming, politics, the just stuff that, really, really matters. And it's been incredibly rewarding to do that as well. So yeah, it's been an interesting year, all this, all that to say to kind of answer your question.
Yeah, no, definitely. Cause that, I was thinking about it as I, was just kind of not planning, jotting down a couple thoughts and stuff leading up to our conversation. And, the first time I heard of you was through the First Gen Hunter podcast. And I was just kind of thinking to myself while I was at the gym the other day, I was just like, I don't think of Kent as like a new hunter, some, like, to me, he's just like, Kent's just a hunter. Like, he knows, he if he doesn't know, he knows somebody who does. And like, Kent is, to my knowledge, just a hunter. Like, I loved what the First Gen Hunter like started as, and what it, cause it's, I mean, such a cool, and if you listen back to some of your older episodes, I don't know if you've done that, but like, if you listen back to some of those, like some of the questions that you ask, like the number of people who are thinking the same exact thing and asking those same exact questions and putting themselves in the same exact shoes, who want to be able to do something like hunting, which, as you pointed out, is like a really great way to like show yourself what you're made of. And, whether it be yourself or your family or your buddies or whatever it may be, like you have to do something, you have to accomplish something if you want to have success doing that. And I just remember the last time you were on the show, it was before your youngest was born. And you told me a story about your son Jonas hanging out in the shed with you while you butchered or cut up a deer and hoisted it up and all that sort of stuff. And just through our conversations, obviously we've stayed in touch throughout then, and just listening to your other podcasts and, conversations that we've had and everything, just like, I mean, even the speed at which that hunting journey you kind of hit it right on the head, that you've been able to kind of accumulate and borrow all this knowledge from hunters who have been doing it, or outdoorsmen or whatever, for super long, and just like condense it into this super intense, really, really, honestly, I mean, short time span to get where you're at today and have the success that you've had. And man, it's so cool seeing where that's at. And I hear you completely on like, how many pre-rut episodes can we possibly put out? And like, like it's going to be like pulling teeth talking about shed hunting or scrape tactics or whatever it may be, because it's been done for years, and you're like, there's nothing new there. But in a way, I think that's kind of the best part of reaching the point that you're at is we get to have conversations like we're having right now and talk about things that are bigger than just the hunting and just that sort of stuff there. And you kind of alluded to it there with the Prairie Farm Podcast. Like, folks, if you have not listened to the Prairie Farm Podcast, it is phenomenal. Like,
I really appreciate,
like you said, it covers the outdoors, the conservation side of things, the political side of things, just like real stuff. I mean, dude, I remember listening a couple months ago to, you had an expert on about talking about PFAS and just how overexposed we all are to it. And it scared the hell out of me. But it was such an eye-opening conversation. I was like, gosh, like just crazy, crazy stuff, but super important in today's landscape. And just, I mean, even cooler that's just like where your career has led you to be having those conversations. It's like, and stuff like that. Like, I'm curious, on the note there, like with some of the conversations you've had on the Prairie Farm and just with the people you've crossed paths with and everything, are there, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer here. Are there things that, let me put it this way. What have you learned through those conversations that has encouraged and excited you the most? And also what has like concerned you the most?
This? That's a really good question. So for both podcasts or just the Prairie Farm?
Prairie Farm.
Just Prairie Farm? Okay.
Or both. I don't know. Up to you.
Yeah. Well, I guess the thing that concerns me the most, and some of it might be I'm just becoming a grumpy old man who just, becomes more drawn to things that need corrected, I guess. I don't know. But sometimes and this ties into hunting too, a thing I'm really getting sick of is how we as human beings, and especially human beings that live under where all of us have the incredible ability to impose our will on our lives. We've just gotten so accustomed to having our cake and eating it too. I want it to be this way, so I will have it this way. And so much of what is wrong with our ailing natural world stems back to that, right? We want things to be the way that we want them, and it doesn't really matter what else what else should be considered there. And generally we look at somebody who maybe says, I'm going to add 10 things to my list of things that I'm going to consider before I have it my way. Well, that's great, but the list should really be like 1,000 things, and a classic example of this would be like how we manage deer property, right? I'm going to set this up exactly so that I can have the perfect opportunity to kill my buck, or maybe we don't get that possessive, but we say to kill a buck, right? And so we maybe plant a bunch of non-native plants, or hyper manage our food plots, or severely limit who else is allowed to hunt the property. All these different things. And that's just a hunting context. The one that really has been on top of my mind here, and half your listeners are probably going to think I'm crazy when I bring this up. But
you're already wearing a Bears hat. It's okay.
That's right. I'm already wearing a Bears hat. Half the audience is already gone. But just remember, I love Wisconsin. I love Wisconsinites. Great people. Every year my family gets sick at Christmas now. Every single year. We go in healthy and we come out sick. And just the way I am, I'm a pretty pragmatic person. And when I'm a big fan of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. And so, here we are wrapping up. Last year we got influenza A really bad. This year we got influenza B. Um, uh, I'm sitting here going, why do we do it where we, all of America comes together from every corner of the hemisphere to gather together for 1 week in the heart of cold and flu season. And then we go back to school, we go back to, our workplaces, churches, everywhere else, and give everyone a disease for the next 4 months until it's spring and everyone's, cold and flu season finally ends. Mm-hmm. And what I arrived at is because we like to have our cake and eat it too. We like to say, yeah, you know what, even though I live 1,000 miles away from my family, I'm going to get together with them at Christmas because I like it, dang it.
Mm-hmm. It's my Christmas.
It's my Christmas. This is how I like my Christmas to be, and it's going to be this way, even if it makes absolutely no sense. And I pick up 6 diseases on the airplane on my way here and give it to every one of my family members once I see them. And it just reflects, I was just thinking of it, just reflects how we are just so accustomed to, because of the fact we can climb on an airplane and fly wherever we want, or we can get in our car and drive wherever we want. And we have the money and resources both in our bank accounts and, at every other exit on the highway. We have the abundance to be able to get away with doing that. Then we do it. And, through all these conversations on the Prairie Farm Podcast, I've just realized how that mentality, despite the fact that 50 years ago when we were doing that, there was like less than 4 billion people on this planet. And now we're at over 8 billion people. And if anything, we've just ratcheted it up, right? In fact, now 50 years later, what do? We go to like 800 different volleyball tournaments for every weekend leading up to Christmas and pick up every disease there too. And it's just always about us. It's always me, 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 me. It's always, I'm going to do it how I want it. And whatever the collateral damage is to me doing it that way, so be it, because I want it my way. And that means I'm going to own 3 houses. That means I'm going to drive 1 million miles. If that means I'm going to, have fast food for every other meal, if that means I'm going to, a school the school cafeteria is going to throw away half the food that they prepare every day for the students because the students don't like it or whatever. Mm-hmm. We just keep on trucking, you know what I mean? Just keep on making it all about us and having our way. If we're going to have PFAS in everybody's bloodstream on the planet, if we're going to have mercury in every fish in the ocean, all is collateral damage to us getting our way. It's just so unhealthy. And
the expectation's never been higher on top of that, right?
Yeah,
it's like we do all this stuff. It's like, is it even what we want, or is it just what we're being told is what we should want? Like,
exactly. And so what's the point of action coming out of that? I don't know. I think I'm still just in the observation, mm-hmm. the observation phase of this new realization that I've had, or this new revelation. But I do think that whatever I determine the application should be for me, it's somewhere along the lines of just be content, be content to, maybe go see family every other year, or maybe be content to not have to have Christmas in the heart of cold and flu season, or maybe I really want to hunt all of these states, but I don't need to do it all in 1 year, or maybe I can spend the resources every other year or something. Just, I don't know, not make it so all about me, and enjoy the things that are right in front of me. My kids, my wife, building a fire, cutting up a deer, getting the dogs out to roam around on the farm. All the things that are already in my life that give me no reason to have to thirst for more all of the time, and just, sit back and count my blessings and be, abundantly thankful for what I have.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I thought about it when you were talking about just your sort of hunting journey and how things have shifted over the last year and all that. And like, nobody's making any of us hunt 25 days
Yeah.
to try and kill this one giant 100 and whatever inch deer.
Yeah.
Nobody's, sitting there like, oh, they didn't get that 150, so they're gone.
Yep.
Like, sorry, there's not legit,
Yeah.
not a good hunter, whatever. Nobody's setting these bars but ourselves, really. And like, I was talking to a friend, and I continue to wonder what the prolonged impact of social media is going to have on, and just, I guess, the eyes everywhere, like, just the impact that's going to have long term on individuals, just overall life satisfaction, the decisions they're making, where they feel like if they're not also doing that, just like keeping up with the Joneses sort of thing, like, or if my kid, like you said, my kid didn't go to the volleyball tournament. Well, there were 8,000 other seventh grade volleyball players that did go. So what do you mean your kid didn't go? They're never going to make it to play in college. I don't know. It's people, like you hit it on the head. Like, take inventory of what's around you, and just, it's almost like almost paradoxical, like, not be selfish, but be very aware of, not be selfish, but be very focused on yourself and what's immediately around you. Like, that's what we're wired for. That's how we, I guess, match our evolutionary status, I guess. Until we're wired enough to handle all that. Like, I feel like that's at least a good first step.
Yeah, be content with the ecosystem of your life, right? Like, a deer isn't worried about, what the badger's up to today. He's worried about being a deer. And so many of us, because it's just how our society is structured. There's a ladder to climb. There's a way to. Most people just crave power, and they don't realize it in some way. And power comes in many different forms. It comes through being able to buy power so you can climb the ladder and get more wealth. It comes in influence. You can build a big following, and people want to hear what you have to say or see what you've been up to. It could come in, being elected for office or whatever. But a lot of times people crave power. Not all. I don't think all people do. I think every now and then, if you look, if you're paying attention, you'll come across people in your life who don't live that way, and you'll probably realize that, man, I want to spend more time with that person because their motives are just different than others. And
it's not a competition to hang out
right
with them.
Right, exactly. And I definitely don't think it's wrong to, like, I got tons of my trophy pictures up on on Instagram. I didn't post any of my deer, and I won't probably from this year. Not that any of them were world beaters by any means. In fact, a couple of them were on the small side. I had shot a really nice buck in Wisconsin, but some of my friends have seen the pictures. But it's just, it was good for me to not do it. And I'm not saying I won't ever do it again. Those moments in which I harvested those 3 deer were so much bigger than what a post with a clever caption would reduce it to. I think I lost you here for a second. Did I lose you there for a second, Pierce?
Yep, gotcha.
Sorry, I have Starlink internet out here in the sticks, but
I do too now. Could be me now.
Yeah. So I was saying, I'm not saying I won't ever go back to posting grip and grin pictures. But those deer to me this year were so special for reasons that a picture cannot capture, and not even a well-crafted caption to go with the picture would capture. And they were every one of them was spent with friends. One of the hard things about being a first gen hunter is it's lonely. You do a lot of hunting on your own. You know, I can't tell you how many times I go and visit my family, and my mom and dad are watching the kids, and because we're not a hunting family, the rest of my brother and his wife and daughter and my sister and her family will come over, and they're all getting together and having dinner, and I walk in after everyone's done eating, because that's just not the rhythm of our family. No one's mad about it or anything. I'm not mad at them for not, like not waiting for me, but it's just like I'm on a different life rhythm than what the rest of the family is, because I'm doing something that's different than what our family has historically done. And so much of your time then is spent in a lonely way when you are a first gen hunter. But this year, I killed my first buck in October during the early muzzleloader season. It's my most favorite season to hunt. This year, I only got 2 sits. It's an 8-day season, and I went out for a evening and then the following morning. And if I needed to, I could have gone that evening of that day that I ended up harvesting this buck in the morning, just because of all the harvest obligations I had. When you grow 38 species, prairie species, and you're the one who's got to get them out of the field, and that's all the time I had. And I was able to go with my friend Jace and my friend Caleb, and them being there with me when I harvested that buck was just so special. Then in Illinois, my friend Luke Fritch, we used to teach together. He's a high school calculus teacher, and he also farms with his dad, and so we have a lot in common. Kids very similar ages, and we both grew up in that area, and we just think very similarly about things. And you can actually hear Luke Fritch on the Prairie Farm Podcast. They're some of the best episodes you'll hear. But we hunted together in Illinois for the gun season, had a couple close encounters, but we were hunting separately, like, different parts of the farm for the first weekend of their gun season. Nothing panned out. Went back. All I had was that morning to hunt because a snowstorm was blowing in that evening. And we hunted together this one morning on the second weekend. I shot this little buck with him, and we were basically like, if it's brown, it's down mode, because we knew we were out of time. And that was such a fun experience. We were sitting together. We had the tripod out. We were hunting from the ground. We were tucked into this spot where we'd shed hunted a million times, sitting right next to this area where I found this giant shed. And, the first deer I got a shot at and I was going to shoot a doe. If it was a doe, I would have used my buck tag on a doe. It's like, I'm out of time. And his dad made it very clear that he's like, do not pass on any more deer. I need some of these crop eaters out of here. And, I just shot the first deer that I had a chance to shoot, and 15 minutes later, out comes this giant buck, and Luke got a shot at him. Too bad nice. His scope was knocked off 0. It was knocked like 8 inches off. He must have banged it on a tree or something. And he had just shot a deer the weekend before that we hunted together, but he had used a climber stand in between. And he thinks that while he was going up that stand, his gun banged against the tree, and we checked it out afterwards, and it was crazy. But all of it was just this beautiful story that we had such a great day. One of the best days I've ever had in the woods. And then I went up to Wisconsin. I got invited by another one of my best friends from college, and his brother-in-law lives on a farm in Driftless, Wisconsin, and they invited me up there to hunt. And it's just like I said, the driftless area collectively, I don't care where you're at, Iowa, Wisconsin, Illinois, Minnesota, it's the most beautiful part of the Midwest, period. It just is. Sorry, Michigan. It's just the most beautiful part. And it's totally different too. There's not big ag fields up there that you can just kind of rely on in the late season to go sit on. You're hunting terrain, you're hunting, finding any kind of edge you can find. You guys always talk about your hay fields up there. You're looking for hay fields. You're looking for anything. It's just a totally different type of hunting. And, I'm up on these bluffs that I've marveled at ever since I can remember in my entire life, going up to visit my family up in that area. And it was just so beautiful. And then I, end up shooting this really nice buck, and I'm with my buddy who's also a first gen hunter. And when we were friends in college, neither of us hunted at all. And now here we are.
Oh, wow.
The band is back together and we're hunting,
That's so cool.
And it was just and he shot his first buck the day before that he's ever shot.
Oh, nice.
And later that evening he filled his doe, one of his doe tags.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just so beautiful. And it was, fresh powder snow everywhere. And, we're laughing our butts off on, the hike in and stuff like that, talking about old things from college and stuff. And the warmth that came from the human side of hunting, something I love to say is hunting brings people together. And I'll preach that till my last days. Hunting brings people together. And I try to say it a lot because we are so divided in so many ways in our modern era that we're living in right now. Everyone's just such a rugged individual, pursuing their own passions, and so busy being so occupied having their cake and eating it too. And this year of hunting was the opposite of that. It was sharing. It was making decisions together. It was dragging a deer out together. It was laughing. It was, getting covered in blood together. It was showing new techniques on field dressing or butchering deer together or whatever. It was just such a nice off spin from what hunting season normally boils down to for me, which is passing 1 million deer, like you said, doing 25 sits. And I still did some of that, like I didn't fill my archery tag this year. I passed on a, decent 8-point. I had another couple giants that it almost worked out with, but it didn't quite work out with. And I think I passed another deer or two, and so I still did some of those elements, but for the most part, it was just like this, take the rhythm of life gives me and be thankful for it. And I remember I felt so ashamed, Pierce. I almost didn't harvest that buck in October. In fact, I passed on him at first. He walked out and I could have easily plugged him. And I was like, he's a 2.5-year-old 8-point. And so I put the gun down and then I sit there for a second. And he stopped. Thank goodness he stopped. And I'm like, what are you doing? You've been working like 70-hour weeks. You're never home. You're always at work. You're going in on Saturdays and Sundays. Your kids are at babysitters all the time because you got to work. And now you're away from home for this hunting trip with your friends. And you're going to come home with nothing because it wasn't a cool enough buck to share on Instagram. And your boss died, and the second you are done with this hunt, you're going to be back to working like a dog until harvest season ends. And you're going to pass on this deer. And and by the way, it's 80 degrees out because October was so dang hot this year.
Yep.
you're gonna just like let it go. And I was like, that's a really, sobering thought. No, I don't think I am going to let him go.
Good point, Kent.
And yeah, and I just pulled that muzzleloader back up and drilled him. And I was so thankful. I kept telling myself that because of the way my archery season went, I just wasn't getting out as much as I wanted to, and was hoping I would around the rut. And I was just too busy, and had other obligations. And I was like, I just kept telling myself, I'm so thankful I harvested that buck. I'm so thankful I harvested that buck. And it was just another kind of like that night at that concert. It was just so good for me to go through that mental, check, with myself. And it was a very healthy thing for me as a hunter. And I felt, just like we talked about earlier, with how hunting sometimes is one of the only things where people can feel like they're doing something that, has big ramifications, or, something that matters. Just like now being, having such a vital role at Hoksey, and knowing that what I do every day has big ramifications for a lot of people. Just like that kind of scratched that itch. Like, I felt the performative side of hunting, that pressure, which is real. You're a content creator in the hunting space.
Mm-hmm.
You know what that's like. I felt that side of me die. Like, awesome. It was weird. It's like, normally I always felt like, oh, this will be a great post. This will be something that'll, I'll be so excited to post about it. And that like shriveled up when I pulled the trigger on that buck. That like shriveled up inside of my brain and died. And now it's like, I used to post all the time. I don't post that often anymore. And I'm not saying that anybody who does post all the time is doing something wrong. Not at all. If that's what makes you happy, great, go for it. But I just realized it's not who I am as a person. Like I said, that doesn't mean I won't ever make a post on something that I harvest in the future. But I think it just kind of made me, really examine who am I. And I'm a guy who likes to shoot bucks of all kinds, with the people that I like being there doing that with. And, but like I said, I still play the game of, passing deer and all that, because there's some side of me that really enjoys that. And you know what, I'll probably at some point, if maybe once my kids are grown or something, and I won't know what to do with myself, then I'll probably, get into like putting 1 million trail cameras out there and targeting one specific buck and spending a whole season trying to get that one deer or something like that. I don't know. It's hard to say, but for right now, I'm just really, really content, hunting like I did this year. And that may not be the same way I'm content hunting next year, but, it was really good for me how it all worked out.
That's so awesome, man. And what a $3 season too. Like, holy smokes. And to be able to do that with friends. And, I was kind of this over the course of the fall, sort of chewing on this sort of idea about not kind of along the lines of, wanting to have your cake and eat it too, but not feeling like I'm owed anything, or like the pressure to like, I have to kill, or else I'm like, what was the point? I just wasted all this time, and I, doing what for, I passed up that that 2-year-old seriously, but not feeling like you're owed anything when you're headed out into the woods. And like, you can go out there with a feeling of like, maybe, subconscious need for control, or, significant impact of some degree or whatever, but you get so much more back from the entire experience. This extends beyond hunting or fishing or whatever you're doing. When you're just open and you're just receptive to, like, I am fortunate to be headed out into the field right now, to have the time to go sit in the woods or to go check things out or whatever happens, I'm happy with it. And like, as soon as you just open the door, like, that's when the coolest stuff happens. That's when you see those things. And, you know, to really hit on the thing of the point of being able to do it with friends and to share those experiences. Like, I don't know, we can get as metaphysical as we want, but like, there's a certain kind of power, like when you're connected with a friend, right? When you have those experiences, there's like a different tone, different frequency, a different shade that the world kind of seems to be in around you. And I think that just like opens up similar doors to just being open to the experience and just like sitting there and like taking it all in and just knowing that we are fortunate to experience whatever it is that happens to creep up over the ridge or come stomping through the leaves, even if it's just a squirrel or if it's you know, that big buck we've been after. Like, if you're sitting there stressing about like, well, I didn't take enough pictures on my way in to post on my story to show that I'm out here doing it, I'm out here grinding still or whatever, or I don't know. There's a guy that I work with. I've worked with him for a long time. He's an older gentleman from the Chicagoland area. He picked up fly fishing later in life, and now he does it every single day. He's a diehard golfer until he kind of peaked out on his game, and then he started getting frustrated. And finally, his wife was like, "Damn it, Tim, find a new hobby or find a new wife." And so he picked up fly fishing. But the guy's never ever taken a photo of a fish that he's caught. Nothing. No grip and grins. Like, never in his life has he taken a grip and grin, because his whole ethos is, I want that moment to be between me and that fish. And I don't want to worry about like, oh, my thumb was kind of in the lens, or there was a weird glare on that fish's face so you can't see it. Like, it doesn't look as big, or oh, he's too far down. And like the gymnastics that we put ourselves through just to try and get the angles. It seems like every hunter or outdoorsman these days, like, now suddenly has to be a professional photographer and like, you know, be willing to be able to pose a fish or a deer or an elk or whatever just right. And it's just like, we're getting so far away from what it's supposed to be, what the fun of doing these things is. And, you know, being like, if you're going to take a picture, like, should be you and your buddies sitting on the tailgate. You know what I mean? Like, that's what the old hunting photos used to be, you know?
Yeah. I've noticed exactly what you're talking about in those. So with my friend Luke Fritsch, I mean, if we had to write down what was your best weekends of 2025, your top 3, those would be in there. Those 2 weekends would be in there. And we barely took a picture. And I remember regretting that. But at the same time, the moment was so good that sometimes you force the picture in because it's like you're trying to bottle it. You know what I mean? It's like, this what I'm living right now is so good, I got to capture a piece of it. And yet when you do that, it feels like a disturbance to the perfection of what you're enjoying.
Well, you just said you're capturing a picture, or you're taking a picture.
Yes, and it's almost like the action of pulling out that screen and tapping a few app buttons, it interrupts it. And I think those are the moments, kind of like your friend talks about there with the fish. Those are the moments that are the most valuable when your brain is too busy to get the camera out because you're too engrossed in what it is you're doing. And to be honest with you, as important as those pictures are and how much I treasure the pictures that I have taken in some of those moments over my life, once I'm dead, nobody will even know the people in them. And same goes for the mounts on my wall. And what will matter is, as I'm dying, thinking back to those mental pictures and, sights and sounds and just the perfection of the moment that I'll be reflecting on as I fade out and into the next life. It'll be most important then, and after that it really doesn't matter anymore. And so I think your friend is onto something, and he probably, being an older guy, he probably understands the finite nature to all of this. And you know, we can't take it with us. We can't really capture it. And so there's nothing wrong with just being fully in the moment. One of my favorite movies is The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, and Sean Penn is one of the characters in there who's supposed to be this like nature photographer for like a National Geographic type of photographer, but he's doing it for Time magazine. And he's been like waiting, his whole life to get this shot of a snow leopard in Afghanistan. And in the film, he's sitting there and he's got the camera in his lens and he just doesn't even bother to take the picture. And he's like, I don't want to spoil the moment. I want to just enjoy it for what it is. And I don't want to watch it through a camera lens. I want to live it. And I think that when you get caught up in that, and I see that, I'm old enough to call guys young guys now. I see that with some of the young guys who start a social media, profile, and they're trying to present a YouTube channel or be an influencer. And again, I'm not trying to criticize by any means. If that's what makes them happy, great. But I can see sometimes just within that ambition is this, I don't know, it's not greedy necessarily, although that can exist too. It's like this, anxiety over needing to squeeze every drop out of it. And to make a name for themselves. And when I see that, I don't feel like, oh, what an idiot. I feel almost sad for him. Like, you're going to ruin it for yourself if you're not careful. If you're going to make it all about trying to get more followers. I mean, I got a friend who shot a 191 last year, and his life is the exact same today as it was before he shot that 191. I got another friend who shot a 208 or whatever, same deal. Got another friend who shot a 221, same deal. It doesn't do that much for us if we make it this performative thing like you were talking about. And instead, think of the smells, think of the sights, think of the sounds, think of the feels, the I don't know, the magic of the moment instead of the camera angle when you get to have those. I mean, really, it's only a handful of times in our lives, right? If I asked you to list every deer you ever shot, it would be impressive, but it would still only, be like probably average out to like 1 or 2 per year of your life. You know what I mean? And if you count the number of days that you have lived so far, it's like, 40 days.
Drop in the bucket. Yeah, exactly.
And so they don't come that often. And when they do come, just fully enjoy it and be fully there and fully content.
Absolutely. Well, I think, there's something to be said for when you're given a shot like what you were given with that buck during your early muzz season there, where you're given that shot where you're like, you have that little light bulb moment where it's like, this is however far he was, a 40-yard broadside shot with my muzzle loader.
Yeah, that's about exactly it.
This is exactly what I've been waiting for. Like, why would I not do that?
Yeah, and I'm sitting here stressed if I'm going to have enough venison to get through the year,
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I don't know. It's such a it's such a paradox, right? Because hunting, like you said, hunting brings people together, but it's also such such an individual pursuit and such an individual just experience as a whole. And like how often, like, I don't know, so often we're the only ones who saw that deer do that thing, rather than, we're the only ones who everybody's seen, I don't know, not everyone, but say plenty of people have seen, a deer do XYZ behavior, but you're the only one who saw that one do that. And you're the one who saw how he kind of like was, rubbing his eye and he was twitching it weird. And he actually like kind of scratched his face on the tree before he made the rub and just did just the nuanced, cool stuff. It's like, if you're more concerned of like, nope, not big enough, and back to my phone, like, you miss all that. And that's like, that's the whole reason we go out and do that stuff, is to see cool things like that recharge us and refuel us. But
yeah, absolutely right. That's 100% right.
Yeah. Well, man, we've been going for a little over an hour here. I know you got 4 kids at home that I'm keeping you from, so I don't want to take up too much more of your time.
Man. This was a lot of fun. It was nice. It was nice getting to put some of my thoughts over the last 6 months into words, because I've struggled to do that. I've tried to think it through, and I got my hunting journal right here. My father-in-law gave this to me for my birthday this year, and said, you spend a lot of time outside doing some interesting stuff. You should write it down when you do it. And so I've done some of that this year, and just kind of recapping how I felt and what I was thinking and how the day went. And yeah, it was nice though to be able to kind of talk this through here on the podcast. And you're a thoughtful guy, and I always enjoy talking with you. You ask really good questions.
Well, thank you, man. I really appreciate you coming back on. I seriously, like, I always look forward to when you and I get to chat, because I know it's always going to be a great conversation, because, hey, you're an interesting guy. You got your hands in a lot of stuff. And yeah, no, dude, you're, as really sad and heartbroken as I was, and I'm sure you were, beyond words that just Carol had passed this summer, and I know it was a hard time for you and a lot of folks, but to have you at the helm now of Hoksey, I can't think of anyone better. And so I'm excited to see what comes out of Hoksey and just fantastic work continues to come out of your guys' shop, because it's, every time I click on something with the Prairie Farm or First Gen or just something with a Hoksey logo on it, I know it's going to be great. So I'm excited for that. And on that note, man, where can folks go to learn more about Hoksey and check out some of your podcasts?
Yeah, well, thanks again, Pierce, for having me on. Thank you to your listeners for tolerating this old Bears fan here. But you can, the best place to follow along with Hoksey was really through the website, HokseyNativeSeeds.com. And we have, any kind of seed you need for a prairie project you have in mind, of whether it's a backyard pollinator patch you want to put in, or a, big hunting habitat planting, or maybe you got a CRP contract or an equip contract that you're needing seed for, whatever, we take care of it. And we really are a company that is built to go to work in step with hunters, and we want it to be done the right way. And we know that if you're there, to shop around for seed, that you want it done the right way. And so it's a full service thing. We walk through it, and if you're close enough, we'll even plan it for you. So it's HokseyNativeSeeds.com though, that you should follow along. And then definitely check out the Prairie Farm Podcast, and follow us on Instagram at, I think it's just the Prairie Farm on Instagram. And then you can follow me personally at first.gen.hunter, and you can see a little bit what's up in my life, and maybe see some of my old grip and grins, and maybe you can read some of the stuff I've posted some of my captions there. And I'm also starting to emerge on Substack. I was originally into writing before I started doing podcasting, and I've done published work for hunting for, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years now. So I think this will be my 7th year. So I'm starting to kind of go back to my roots a little bit and trying to do a little bit. There's not much there yet. I don't even hardly have a following, just a few people, but I'd like to start channeling a lot of my efforts there onto my Substack. So just look me up at Kent Boucher on Substack and follow along there. I'd love to be able to share my thoughts that way. And yeah, you can look up the First Gen Hunter podcast too. We have 370 some episodes up on that feed. So it'd be a great chance for you to go back and listen through some content through the years, some really great hunting content. There's also a wild story if you go to episode 113, and you will hear the most brutal grizzly attack that anyone has ever survived. Is just unreal. If you need something to keep you awake while you're driving down the road, you'll be white knuckling all the way to your destination. so it is Jeremy Evans. He was, toughest guy I've ever heard of. And so there's some great, stuff like that on there too. But thank you again, Pierce. This just really was a lot of fun. And honestly, it's like almost like a counseling session for me, got to work through some of these things that have been on my mind, kind of that I've pushed to the back of my mind for a while, but I've tried to kind of sort through. But yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, dude, I'll tell you what, you can come back and have a counseling session anytime you like. You're the only bear with an open invitation. And seriously, man, I can't thank you enough for your time, man. I really admire everything that you guys do in the outdoor space over at Hoksey, and just you as an individual, man. I'm glad we've gotten to be buddies, and I look forward to the next time we chat.
Yeah, we got to make that springtime cast and blast happen sometime with turkeys and trout. That would be a ton of fun to do that. So
yeah,
but yeah, definitely. Thanks again, bud.
Yep. Thank you, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.